All right, welcome everybody to our September Kentuckiana FileMaker Developers Group. We meet on the fourth Tuesday of every month, and if you happen to be watching us on YouTube, be sure and stop by. You can check us out at kyfmp.com for the meeting schedule, and we would love to have you join us here live. Otherwise, we're going to go ahead and present today with Alan Bird is going to start us off. We're going to be talking about payment processing through FileMaker, or different options of integrating payment processing with FileMaker. We're going to talk about PayPal, and then later on we're going to talk hopefully a little bit about Stripe and Authorize.net. So I'm going to turn it over to Alan. He's going to talk to us a little bit about something he's been working on with PayPal recently. So Alan?
Yeah, we do a lot with the credit card processing, having going to cash registers in a department store. PCI compliance was a huge issue, and we got into it, and I've learned more than I ever wanted to know. But PCI compliance is a problem, and the average company really cannot afford to do PCI compliance. So they either have two choices. One is ignore it or pay very high fees. Our department store literally looked at this this is 5 years ago, when PCI compliance really started getting into it, and the banks and all people were really saying you have to be PCI compliant. They looked into it, and the cost to get their solution certified was $250,000. And that was by the time you got Visa, MasterCard, American Express, Discover done. And the trick was you then had to lock the solution. In any change, you had to get recertified. The recertification was less, but the problem is the whole beauty of FileMaker is flexibility. So as soon as you lock the solution, it's not FileMaker anymore. So we had to come up with different solutions, and we did come up with one, and it is what we do is we have a separate credit card terminal, which is sitting on the same counter, but it cannot have any connection to that computer whatsoever. So it has a separate network and everything else. So the gateway people provide that terminal, which is PCI compliant. All we have to do is just pass a code to it, and it comes back. So it does work. However, that is a really complex solution. The trick is I work with a number of different small organizations that they say, we just want to be able to get payment on a solution. So well, we first started out with doing just a button from PayPal, which you would then put on your website. But the problem is it's usually a single value amount. So if you've got something where there's a shopping cart involved, how do you do it? I fought with this for a while, and I reached out to Drew Angel at Angel Eye. And at one time he had a plugin that worked with that. Well, when PCI compliance came along, he sort of let that go, as I understand it. Drew will correct me if I'm wrong. And so there really isn't, to my knowledge right now, any PCI compliant plugin that will let FileMaker connect to a gateway. But he said, why not use PayPal.me? It is something I never heard of. And I started digging around, and there's very little documentation on it or a discussion about it. But he showed me it, and it was absolutely fascinating how simple and easy it is to install in a FileMaker solution. Step one is you have to have a PayPal account, a business account. So let me share my screen, and we'll just go through it. Hopefully you can all see that. And what it is you go to paypal.me. If you're actually in your PayPal account, if you dig down in through business tools and do some other type of things, you'll actually find a link buried down in there, but you have to look for it. It's not going to pop out at you. So you go, this is the opening page. You'll have to actually sign in. Normally, I was already signed in when I popped this open. So that's the opening screen. Let's see, get to that. We'll go here. The first thing it says, you get started. By the way, this whole presentation is going to be really short because it is so simple, it's scary. Add a photo. If you want to have a logo or icon, you drop it in here, or just hit now. For this demo, I just did not now. This is an organization we were working with, and so we typed in what they wanted is their link name, and if it's available, it'll tell you right then and there. If it's available, you hit next. That's it. You've just had a PayPal link to this, goes right through your PayPal account. You hit agree. So now here's the link. Now the trick is, what Drew showed me is just put a dollar value at the end. And if you do that, it's passed to this with a dollar value. So let's see if I can go back. So if you in your shopping cart put a variable with the amount, you can now have an entire shopping cart on your site that you built in FileMaker that you've got total control over. And at the submit button at the end, you put in the value, it sends it over. And so I've now installed this now in 3 different solutions. And yeah, all you have to do is put this in that link button and you're done. I mean, that's about as easy as you can get. And some pros and cons. The pro is it's super simple, easy to work with. What happens here is, the way I handle it is, when they hit the submit button, it sends them to, it says you'll be going to an online payment portal, and it also sends them an email, and in the email it says, once this has been approved, money, your transfer will be completed. PayPal does not send anything back to me. They send an email to me, but it's not something that'll trigger something automatically. So it is a notification one way, but all the information they're entering is on the PayPal side. So they're the ones that have to be PCI compliant. I don't have to worry about it. Only thing I get back from them would be a notification that this person at this email address has done it. And it works well. I go back in and I just tie the 2 together, copy the transaction ID back into the file, and I'm done. This works fine if it's a small amount. If it was a huge operation, you couldn't do that. But for associations or organizations or minimal type of transactions on a daily basis, it works out really well. Bad news. The bad news is they have to have a PayPal account. If you would have a normal API PayPal solution, it would go to, they can pick what credit card, they don't have PayPal. This one does require them to at least sign in. At that point, they can pay for with whatever they want, but it is tied to their PayPal account. That's how they're handling the security on it. We've had this now running for over 6 months on a couple different solutions, and we have yet to have anybody really complain about it. So that con that I thought would be a big one has not reared its ugly head at all. So we're in pretty good shape. And that is about as simple as I know of a solution that you could put a shopping cart solution that is PCI compliant on your website and launch it. And so this whole thing took literally a matter of minutes. And I've got to thank Drew Angel on pointing me in that direction. Since then, it's been great. So literally, when I first came up with this, and Ron said, "Oh, Alan, why don't you talk about it?" I said, "Okay." And I said, "It'll be short." And now you see why, because literally there's almost nothing to it. But it's an easy solution to come up with something that you can handle. So that's it from me. So unless you've got some questions.
I have a couple of questions. So this is kind of a situation where somebody can shop on a website. How are you connecting it? Is this website is the shopping cart powered by FileMaker?
Well, yeah, it's 100% within FileMaker. For example, for this particular group, they've got different type of membership operations they can do. Well, or they could buy it for multiple people and different years. So there's different values. So I built it all within FileMaker. So they use FileMaker, and it's a secure site. They do their whole thing. And in the checkout screen, it says checkout now. They've already given me all their information other than the credit card. and they hit submit. It sends to PayPal. They submit the amount. I get an email back and it says, this person just paid this amount. I put the transaction ID into it, tied together, it's done.
Okay.
So the shopping cart is in FileMaker, standard FileMaker, all the way.
And is the interface through Data API, or are you using WebDirect?
No, it's just a button. It's a URL.
Okay.
So literally, where is it? Yeah. All you're doing is putting that link. So this is literally within that, copied this right from the script. This has PayPal, has the link that you've agreed to upon, and a global variable that I sent to it.
Okay. And so then it still takes a manual operation to confirm a payment and then enter.
So all it is it's a button and it sends them on its way. But in that script, just before that is when I sent an email saying you've now been sent to it as soon as it's approved. So they know it's not live. This would not work for something where they're buying it and they want to download software right away. That's not what this would work for. These are all used in associations or small organizations where it's not time sensitive as to the transaction being completed. I usually always put in there, I said, allow one business day. Usually, I get notifications on it and I check it, 3 or 4 times a day. And there's not that much activity, so it works.
Okay.
Okay, Alan, I have a question. Could you set up a specific email account and then just have one of the FileMaker plugins that works with email to just monitor that account and look for it and pull that information in?
What comes back is always a standardized form, so you could very easily scrape that transaction ID and put it back in. What the key would have to be the matching email address is the only thing, because we did have one where they paid for it on a different account. I was able to match because of the dollar amount, and there just wasn't that much activity. If they did the transaction at 2 o'clock and the PayPal processing was at 2:12, that's the match I did. An automatic one wouldn't be able to do that. If they did use it, you've got to have something that's tied together. Since you're not sending a code, that's the issue. That was one of the reasons why I asked Drew Angel, would that be possible? And he said he could build one that would be able to send that information back and forth. But he was hesitant to do that because he didn't know if there was a big enough interest. And I know I'm interested in it because it would save me a little bit of work. And I think that's what the discussion we need to sort of say, is that a valuable thing that he should spend his time and energy to build for the community? Would that be a value?
I think a couple of people that would need that solution would probably pay him in a heartbeat.
That's what I think. And Drew is traveling today, so he couldn't be here, but I said I'd ask the question, and I know I would. And I've got 3 solutions right now that I just have to monitor them. On a side note, I happen to be the treasurer for Mammoth Cave National Park, so nationwide. So I have a few transactions I have to deal with, and that's what this sort of was generated about. And I would pay for it in a heartbeat, just so I didn't have to monitor it every single day.
Yeah.
But if you
when you say that they have to have a PayPal account, are you talking about the person who pays?
Yes.
Okay.
They have to sign up.
In the past, I've been able to use certain processors without actually having an account. You can work as a guest.
Yes. Now the normal PayPal thing, if you go to some sites where they have different payment options, one of them is PayPal. That one you don't have to have. You can do it. The whole thing as a guest. This, because it's PayPal.me. It is tied from PayPal account to PayPal account.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But you can set it up. It's super simple. First name, last name, and they don't have to do anything because each transaction could be a different one, but they do have to have an account. But most people have a PayPal account, I found out, and that's why we're not having issues.
And I think it's the PayPal business account allows you to just take somebody could choose to pay through PayPal, but they could just enter a credit card number or something instead of having to use their actual PayPal account. But that's a PayPal business account.
Yeah, well, you have to have a PayPal business account to have PayPal.me.
Okay.
Well, no, I take that back. I think they'll also let you do it on a residential one, but you still have to have the link. But it is from their PayPal account to your account, whether it's yours is commercial or business.
Gotcha.
But that's where I think what Drew is saying, could he take the normal PayPal API and work it into something where it could literally be as simple as this, to drop it into a solution, which would be great. I think be great.
Yeah.
But now what he's looking at is strictly as a PayPal solution, so it's not for the other ones, but at least it would be a real simple way to be able to add some type of a payment structure to a small operation.
Yeah.
This would not work in point of sale, though.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, like with the PayPal API and a business account and all that, like there's ways to be able to utilize that process where you're basically just using PayPal as your gateway, and the customer can use whatever credit card they want and don't have to have
Right. In that case, what you're doing, because we have that for one of our clients, and it is an API. We're using PayPal's API to do that, and we have to send them the transaction ID, the amount, and then you give PayPal, when it comes, two links. One is approved and one's not approved, and it comes back, but with that token, and so it actually updates the information. But that way, the FileMaker never had any access to the credit card information, so there's no problem. In that case, if they pay for it with some other name and it doesn't make a difference because the token moves and comes back. All it's coming for is you're sending it the token, the amount, and it comes back with the token, yes or no. And so that's really what I would like to have happen here. So it'd be automatic.
When I did some research on PayPal, one of the things that seemed very confusing to me, but I guess in order to be able to say you wanted to just write into FileMaker the ability to just send to the API and actually send the payment information and get it back, get the response back and all that kind of stuff. I guess there's a process by which you have to submit your solution to PayPal. I may be wrong on that, but I thought that was what it looked like.
If you are collecting the credit card information on your site, yes, you have to do that.
Yeah.
What you want to do is you want to send them the token. All the credit card stuff is done on their side, so they are so you don't have to do that. It's not as easy, because on that API thing, you have to do a security. You send a token, it has to authorize like each and every single transaction. There's a couple different jumps back and forth before to let it go through. But yeah.
And in that research, there were a couple other videos out there of PayPal solutions, and all of them used kind of the same idea that you're using here, which is what FileMaker is sending is sending an email to the client with a link for them to go to PayPal to pay. And then, like, I think I've seen one where then they have an API that checks the status of that payment that can bring it back.
But see, what the difference here is, you're not sending an email to the client for them to pay. It actually flips the screen to them. They put in the amount, and then that's the end of the transaction, and you get the answer via email.
Gotcha. Does it bring it? It brings it up in a browser then, right?
Yeah, it's because within FileMaker, what happens is you say, go to this website. So it's, go to URL, and this is where you send it.
Okay. Could you do it in a web viewer?
I was just going to ask that.
You probably could, yeah. But the thing is,
is the client required to sign into their PayPal account? The customer?
Yes, because they have to be on their account.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're in a web viewer, what happens on the PCI part of that. I don't know. Yeah. I didn't try it. Again, this was, I had less than half a day to put the whole solution together, and it worked, and we left alone. Since I'm a volunteer and I don't get paid for it, I'm not going to put in too much time.
Right.
So,
Yeah,
but I
I
mean,
ran
for a
into
simple
issues
solution,
with web viewers also when I was trying a similar approach with somebody that had a web object that you could call, but it would not work in a web viewer. So
yeah. So that's Ron, that's literally all I've got on that. But
that is really
so
cool.
I mean, you talk about something simple and easy. So the trick is Jonathan, you said you think there's a need. What does everybody else think? Is there a need for this? Should we tell Angel Eye to try it?
I don't have a current need,
Yeah.
but because the projects I was working on that attempted to do that have expired, and the clients have gone away. We kind of proved that it wasn't going to work, and so I'm not in contact with them anymore. But if somebody did have a need, which, I mean, who doesn't? I mean, almost everybody, none of my clients, but almost everybody has a need to run credit cards. So, I would think that the demand would be huge.
I do too. I just don't think he had any feedback on it. He's been on other projects, so I'm going to ask him to really, look at it and come up with it. And if it's not outrageous, I just may have him do it as a custom one for us. But I think it's something that is valuable to other people.
It sounds like.
Good. I'll go work on them.
Okay.
I just took over the screen sharing, Alan. So
You got it.
yeah. So what I was going to do to fill in some more of the time is look at some other options, but this goes back to and actually I have a question. If anybody, for a long time, I think 360works plastic plugin was kind of a standard that a lot of people have used over the years and continue to use. I don't think that's not PCI compliant either, is it?
No, I've looked at that, and it is not PCI compliant because you collect the data, you send it to them, and it does work out just great, but it's not PCI compliant. And that's one of the words. If you're using it, you're just saying it. We're not PCI compliant.
Yeah, and I guess that's part of the conversation that I wanted to bring up is what are the ramifications of not being PCI compliant? Because I have a longtime employer / client that they process probably $30,000 a week through authorized.net using what I'm about to show you, which is using an API call to authorized.net to go directly from FileMaker. And he looked into getting PCI compliant and it wasn't possible. And he said, that's okay. It just means I pay a higher percentage. Like it just wasn't a big deal to him that he wasn't PCI compliant. So
I think it's the liability.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only two things. One is the liability, and the other is the fact that usually there's a higher rate if you do not provide the gateway with your PCI registration.
Yeah.
One more detail: there are some banks that won't deal with you,
right,
unless you can be certified.
So a lot of times, so that's some of the things that come up when it comes to PCI compliant. And the use case for me for that particular client is a lot of phone transactions where people are paying over the phone and giving their credit card number over the phone and everything. And so, we developed a way that the support person on the other end can just plug in the numbers and hit process right from FileMaker. And this is basically what that is right here. This is my little authorized.net app that is built to process payments through authorized.net. I've got one for Stripe and one for authorized.net, and they're both available through my website. And I'm trying to get the link here. Where's my chat? How do I get to the chat when I'm in screen share mode? There we go. There it is. So I'm going to put the link, my products page, so you can download what I'm about to show right from my products page if anybody's interested. So this is basically this is what we all would like to be able to do. And in circumstances, if we're willing to not be PCI compliant, then this is what we can do with an API solution. So this basically starts with, of course, this one's authorized.net. And you have to have the authorized.net account, and you sign up for the authorized.net account and you get your API login ID and your transaction key. And then we come over here and basically it's just a set of global fields where you put in your credit card information and hit capture, and the credit card has expired. Okay, so I got to change the expiration, and I'm getting a response directly from authorize.net when I do this. So I'm just success, and now I've got a success indicator, an authorization code, and a transaction ID. So basically this is using insert from URL. So we'll go into the script real quick and take a look at authorization capture. And I've written the script. I do some pre-validation before sending through the validate from URL. I've set this up so that you can drop it into your own solution, and all of the variables are, oops, that's not it. All the variables are available. Oops, up here. So I've just put all the variables in a let calculation right here. So these are all the variables that can be filled in. Many of them are optional. So this script is actually written to be able to have, full shipping information, customer information, and all that. But this demo is only set up to just send the basic credit card information. And so what I've done is I've got a global that captures the request that we're sending, so we can actually see what the request is. And then on here, we've got a global, this is a little global setup that I picked up from, what is it, Productive Computing, I think I've kind of stole this from, where you get the response in a global, and then you can actually drill down in the response by putting in the different keys here. Did I get that wrong? Let's see. Oh, messages. So I can do messages and see what the messages are. So I can drill down into the JSON response. And it all just is happening in here. So we're basically coming through and building the authorize.net JSON request. And this is where the request is built. So one thing to keep in mind when it comes to authorize.net, authorize.net, I've heard it put in a way that it's like pseudo JSON. It's not exactly JSON in one respect, is that it expects the JSON elements to be sent in a certain order, which is not alphabetical. So if you do any research on this online, you'll find that somebody wrote a custom function to reorder the JSON elements and all that kind of stuff. So you could use set JSON element, and then you have to wrap it in this function to be able to dictate how it's the order that they're presented and all that kind of stuff. I just basically built the JSON query out of text. The thing that's most complicated about that is that I've got to do all of this various escaping quotes. But really, it's just constructing a text that then gets the JSON out of text that then gets sent to authorize.net. And this is the resulting JSON. So rather than using the JSON functions in FileMaker to create this JSON, because it ends up creating them in the wrong order, I just built it manually, I guess you would call it. I just constructed it in a text calculation. So then that is sent to authorize.net and you get a response code. And so this is fully contained within your FileMaker solution, where you're running the card from your FileMaker solution, you're getting the response back from authorize.net, and you're able to get that instant response, which I think is, what we've been talking about, is that's the optimal way that any client would want to be able to run a credit card, is just plug it in, hit process, successful, and you're done. But again, it goes back to the, it depends on how important it is for you to be PCI compliant. I use this, well, real quick, we'll go over the other one that I have is the same thing built in Stripe. So Stripe is the same thing. It's got a set of APIs that we can use. In this case, when you sign up for a Stripe account, you just need a simple API key. And then it's the same interface for the Stripe as well. And it works almost identically, except that the API call to Stripe is different. It doesn't use JSON, it uses curl. So what I'm doing in this script is I'm constructing that the curl to send through the insert from URL instead of JSON. So, and all of this is done by, basically all of the documentation is available. Go to Stripe, You come over here and you've got all of the documentation that shows you exactly how to build let's kind of go to payment methods, and it gives you all the examples and how to build the curl to send all these different, where is it? I was looking for, that's payment methods. Anyway, and the same thing with the authorized.net. They've got all the documentation, so you just have to figure out how to construct the request to put into your insert from URL, and then you can figure out what your responses are. So on this one with the Stripe, when I hit process, and I've succeeded, so over in my request, this is the curl. So I built these so that you get to see what your request is. So if there's any mistakes or problems, you can see it. But in order to do that here, we have to kind of like add some carriage returns to structure a little bit so we can see what we're looking at. Let's see, and then post. So with curl, with Stripe, basically we're making two insert from URLs from Stripe, because the first one we have to get a token. So we're coming through and we're setting up our curl. We're inserting from URL to get a response. And when we get the response, then we basically created a payment method. And then we've got to go back and create a payment intent. So it's two insert from URL calls, but they're done in succession. So when you click the button to run the script, it runs the first call. And if you get an error, it displays an error. If it's successful, it moves on to running the second call. So in this request, I've actually got request 1 and request 2. So it shows what your request was. You get the response back in JSON. So in the same respect, you're able to drill down through and see what your response is. Can be a little tricky sometimes, both with authorized.net and Stripe. Sometimes a failed payment isn't presented in the response the same way. And I don't have any specific examples of that, but I've had to do some error capture so that in one place in the response, it may say success, but then down later, it may show that it was rejected later on in the response for a different reason. And so I've had to like learn that sometimes the first response saying succeeded isn't necessarily definitive. So I've got to make sure and capture for the different responses. But, it just takes weeding through all of the possible responses and things like that. But yeah, so this is, directly an API call straight to the payment gateway, processing the payment and receiving the results. Now, the other thing that I've done with these is I've used the data API to make this both with my own, like I have my own website. If I were to invoice somebody on my like one of my clients, I can email an invoice with a link that takes them to a payment page and the invoice page on my website. And using the data API, they can actually pay it right from the website. And all it's doing there is it's using the data API to come to my CRM, run the payment script, process the payment in FileMaker, and return the result to the website. And that just falls under that category of, if I were primarily a PHP developer, I probably would have the web page do the processing and then send the result to FileMaker. But since I am not a PHP developer, I'm a FileMaker developer, I send the task to FileMaker so that I can script it in FileMaker and carry out the task in FileMaker and send the result back to the web page. So yeah, I don't have a whole lot to fill in a whole lot of time either. I just was showing a couple of examples of payment gateways where we can use the insert from URL. And this is where, for years, I used the 360works plastic plugin as well for years. And then I got to the point where when the insert from URL functionality came out, I was able to roll my own and do that instead. So that's what this is the result of. So any questions on that?
Just a quick question.
Sure.
How would this compare with any integrations that you could do with Claris Connect? Have you explored that?
I have not. I have not
Okay.
explored Claris Connect at all, so I'm not sure how that would be done in Claris Connect.
Because we're looking to do something different than what we had before.
Mhm.
And I'm just curious to see what's there, and especially in light of the fact that you can write your own Claris custom connectors.
Yeah, unfortunately, I'm not versed in Claris Connect, so I don't have any ability to speak on that.
Okay, cool, thanks.
It sounds like it'd be a good thing for somebody to write a connector for.
Yeah, but which are the payment gateways that you see on Claris Connect? I haven't looked, I haven't spent time looking, but I'm just curious if anybody here has researched it a little bit.
But I mean, that's what they're for. So one would think that would be possible.
Yeah.
Again, totally, no matter how you do it, if you do it in FileMaker, it's totally non-PCI compliant
Right.
because you have to send them the credit card information.
Yeah.
So
You mean, what do you mean? You cannot send them the credit card information. They have to capture it on their system. Is that what you mean?
right,
Yeah.
to be PCI compliant, yes, you would have to have a way to send the customer to another site that was PCI compliant. But if you're taking the credit card and the CVV and the expiration date, you're not PCI compliant because that's
Right.
not secure.
Yeah.
So anytime you're taking information, and so all these gateways that require you to send stuff, if you're sending them from FileMaker, they're not PCI compliant.
Right.
That's
Right,
why
but if
there's
you
all
had a
solutions out there that you swipe the card and you never get that information. So
yeah.
Now there are
Yeah.
some things that I do, like in building this, I'm using global fields in order to enter the credit card information. So therefore it's never stored in the actual database. It's on a
oh sure.
global field. And of course the server is encrypted and things like that. So I mean, there's some, like, I would never do a system that would store it or use stored data fields in order to capture that information. That would definitely be less secure, far less secure. So
Right, but somebody could easily go in there and tweak it, and all of a sudden you're saving stuff. So
yeah.
it's, if we have total control over it, it's probably secure enough, but at no point would it ever be PCI certifiable.
Right. Yeah, as we've discussed, it's probably never going to be an option for something in FileMaker that is PCI compliant, unless it's, with Alan was talking about the guy he was talking about, if he's building it into a plugin for PayPal, then if it's a plugin, I guess that could have a chance of getting PCI compliance because it can't be changed by anybody else. So.
Wouldn't it be great if it was a solution in Claris Connect?
Yeah.
Yeah, if it would also include the ability to be PCI compliant.
Well, the trick is you just have to send it there and come back. I mean, you're going to have to leave the site. But if you could do that and they could make it so simple that you just have to put in, like, Ron, you fill in these 3 blanks and it works.
Yeah.
If they could do that for the various different ones without having to write all the rest of the stuff behind the scenes, that'd be great.
So one of the other questions I had, if anybody knows, is, I was talking about the web integration approach where I'm using the data API to run the script on FileMaker and bring back the result. If that were written so that the web page was actually doing the credit card processing, I mean, websites, how does that work? You've got all these websites that take credit cards. Is that PCI compliant? like if you wrote it into the PHP page and the PHP page did the processing and just brought back the result, and that was sent to FileMaker.
I don't think it'd be PCI compliant. If it's written in, if you collect that data even for a second, it's got to be theoretically PCI compliant.
Yeah.
Like we ran into that problem with the department store. If we finally had to put it in order to meet the PCI compliance rules they had, we couldn't even use the same network. So we have a separate network just for all the terminals.
Yeah.
I mean, it gets insane.
Yeah. So I kind
Thanks
of
gonna get the money.
I wonder with all these websites that you can build your own shopping cart and you know, like through WordPress or something, use a plugin to be able to take credit cards, you know, where does that fall into the spectrum of everything? Are those not PCI compliant? Or, you know, I guess I'm trying to gauge that importance of PCI compliance.
I looked
wonder
at the Shopify one, the one behind the scenes there, it is PCI compliant, but they've built that integration built into it.
Okay.
You know, so, you know,
Well,
I think we lost Alan's sound or something
Yeah.
happened.
yeah. Alan, did you flip to mute all of a sudden? Were you still talking?
I'm done.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, this has been informative for me. Thank you for nice to drop in. And Ron, like I said, if you want the speaker in March, I'd be happy to present in March. So just follow up with me whenever
Absolutely
you
will.
want.
Yeah, absolutely.
I gotta run, everybody. Nice to see everybody. See you
You
soon.
too.
All right.
Okay.
Thanks for
Vince.
joining us, Vince.
Bye. Yeah, you're welcome.
All right. Bye.
Those are nice demos, Ron.
Thanks.
Yeah, very nice.
Yeah, they're built to pretty easily integrate into somebody's system. So it's just they can either I built it all on a global table of some global fields, so somebody could just use the same table, or they can use their own table, whatever fields they're using. It's all right in the. And once you change the variables here, you don't have to touch anything else throughout the rest of the script. So it's all in one place.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the way you approach your solutions.
Well, we're a quiet bunch now.
The quiet bunch.
Yeah.
Well, so we're looking forward to Brian next month, huh?
Yeah, we're definitely gonna see about getting Brian to do a presentation on that one.
That's
Okay,
what
so we
happens
got-
when you leave early.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get
I agree.
volunteered.
Yep.
I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording. We can just
Okay.
talk